Hey everybody, my name is Kelly Palacios, and I'm going to be talking about the six standards of teaching. I actually got to do my field experience yesterday, and I work at the school actually that I did my field experience for this class yesterday, and another class the day before. But I got to work with another teacher who I know of, but I have never worked with her. And I've worked with several out here, just not with her. And I was really excited to sit in on her room. Um, but while I was in there, I was actually thinking about some of the standards and how I would want to implement them into my classroom. It's funny how when you start doing field experience, you really picture your room, and you picture yourself being in that position with someone else coming in there and being with you on their field experience. So one day possibly you might mentor that student, or be observed by that student. So I don't know, it was really in fast forward there in the future. But with the first standard, and it's where the teachers demonstrate leadership. They are the center of all of those children. They are the ones who are going to be guiding them for that year. Some, unfortunately, maybe longer. Um, but they are the role models. They are the leaders. They are the ones that are looked up to, and the ones that the children know are going to be guiding them through this learning experience, through their journey, through that grade. But also with how the parents look at them. The parents, being a mom, I have a fifth grader and a second grader. Um, I look at my teachers for my students, not my students, my children, and look at them and see how they carry themselves and see how they represent that classroom, how they lead that classroom. Because I think it's really important that they are very well mannered in their career, meaning they know what they're doing. They know how to carry that role as being that leader, because it's going to be very important with little minds with you every single day, knowing that you can make sure you're their guide, you are their North Star. So that I will implement in my room by just always being on time, on point, precise. And just them thinking that I know everything. Little minds think that big people know everything in the whole world. So, and I've learned that personally being inside the school. So I feel like if they think that and have the abundance of knowledge, they already look at you as such a leader. So implementing that in my room, I will be sure, in my classroom, I will be sure to follow this standard closely and to be the best role model and the best leader that I can be inside the school. And then when we talk about standard two, we talk about how teachers establish a respectful environment for a diverse population of students. We all know that inside of the school setting, there is going to be many diversities in there. There's going to be many cultures. There's just going to be a nice jumble mix inside of that school, and it's better that way because it creates so much ability and opportunity for conversation to learn cultures and about backgrounds of other people and students. And that is the way to maintain that respect with the students. I actually, last year, in my second grade class, we had a student, I was a TA for a second grader, and we had a student come in about mid-year from Argentina. He was actually taking Spanish to English over there. So he came over here really knowing minimal English, and my second grade teacher had to actually communicate some. He knew a little bit, but some with him on a translator. Watching him grow was absolutely wild. It was like he was here this whole time. But with his culture and his background, his mom actually came in. She's an English teacher, or she was in Argentina, and she came in and she did a full entire demonstration of all things Argentina to the class. And he got up there and helped her from things like food to musical culture and background to their flag, their colors, football, which is their soccer sport over there, all the things. And she had these things for the students to touch and to be hands-on and engage and things like that. And I really think implementing a sense of culture, whether you have a student from, destinations like Argentina or not, letting them experience in some way, shape, or form another culture, I think will really help them as well to develop that respect for that other culture. Because without that, they only really know their own, which is what we teach and what we're here to do. So yeah, that was a really cool thing that we did. But I would implement that in my classroom, the respect for the environment, for the diverse population, by incorporating some hands-on learning with cultural backgrounds. Just seeing that myself, it was a really engaging opportunity for the students, and it went really well. So standard 3, knowing the content you teach. I'm going to wrap that back to standard 1, being a leader, because I feel like they go hand in hand. Because if you look like you know what you're doing and you talk like you know what you're doing, then you obviously know what you're doing. You are speaking from knowledge, you are speaking from learnings, your studies, all of that. I think when you present yourself as knowledgeable of the subject that you're talking about, and there isn't blank spaces of, or gaps, I should say, in communication, you just present yourself as fully equipped in the studies of what you're talking about. And it just, me listening to teachers speak on their videos and their PowerPoint, stuff like that, it comes across to me that they are very knowledgeable in what they're teaching, and that makes me a better student, because I feel like if I'm the learner from the teacher and the teacher is really engaged and really knowing what they're teaching me, then they're teaching me more passionately and they're teaching me with a conviction, then I'm going to learn better, because that's the type of learner that I am. So I just think that when a teacher knows their content, not just knows it to skim it, but they really have an understanding for what they're doing, the material they're going over, everything like that, that they can really just keep that engagement, and that they will be better teachers, and that their students will become better learners, because that will, I should say, because I've seen it, but that will help engage their students into the activities and everything going on in the classroom, when they just have this well-rounded vibe of a learning, teaching environment. So yeah, I will bring that in there with knowing what I do way before I do it. I like schoolwork. I like to study. I'm always going to be a student even when I graduate school. Because I'm a sponge, and I feel like you can't know enough. So knowing your material before you present it is definitely going to be something that I do into, or bring into the classroom. And then standard number 4, where teachers facilitate learning for their students. I think that it is extremely important for teachers to do everything they can for engaging their students and facilitating that learning for them. And while I was in field experience yesterday, and I won't say too much because I know we're writing about this, the teacher did some things with this facilitation of her lesson plans and her studies that I actually know without a doubt that I will take with me and bring it into my classroom. I definitely learned some things yesterday, witnessing and observing and watching, that I probably would not have developed on my own, but seeing it in action and watching the students, the whole environment. I honestly can't wait to write about it, because it will be something that I carry with me without a doubt when I get my own classroom. I watched a 3rd grade class yesterday. I want to do 2nd, but her method that she used for facilitating could really be used in really any K through 8, I feel like. So I will be sure to talk about that. But just facilitating learning for their students is obviously really important. And I think, keeping your momentum going in your facilitation, in your lessons, in your plans, and keeping that engagement and that participation is all going to, go together really well to keep your days going and keep your students with you while you are facilitating. And then standard number, and I apologize about my voice. I'm trying to get something. So if I sound a little scratchy, I do apologize. Standard 5, teachers reflect on their practice. And when I was reading this, I really connected to standard 5, because I'm in 6 classes right now, and every one of them requires reflection. This class, obviously my other field study class, even my instructional technologies, every one of them requires you to reflect on what you're doing. And now, knowing this is standard number 5, I see the connection there and why we're doing that. It's very important to, after you do what you do, no matter how prepared you were to do what you did, to reflect on that pull that back with you and see, how did that work in your classroom? Were your students with you on this? Did this roll the way you thought that it was going to go? Was the participation level where you thought it might be at? Were the students really looking like they were soaking that in? Were you losing some along the way? That happens. A reflection is going to be something. And again, I'm only smiling because I wondered why I was doing so many reflections since this semester started. And then I seen this, and this is the first time where, we're going through all of these standards like this mainly. And I was like, okay, this is why we're reflecting, because it's so important to do that. I coded a video game in my technology class, reflected on it. And it really made me think about the whole purpose of why I even had to do that. At first I was like, build a video game. I want to be a teacher. So, but then going back, I was like, I understand why I had to do that. And I understood that the reason for that was implementing steps, was starting here, but knowing you need to get here. And then, the in between of the sandwich, like what's in the middle, and then going back and looking at that and seeing, how did that relate to what you're doing? And how does that make what you're doing better for your students? And how can you make this better? And how can you be better for them? And yeah, so standard 5, which is the reflection of what they're doing, what the teachers are doing, I will implement that in my classroom every time I do my lesson plans for the week. And I will come back to it, and I will see that how what I'm teaching is working with my students, what works, what doesn't work. And it'll help me to create better plans and more engaging plans. So yeah, reflection, I can see now, super, super important to have to do. So yeah, standard 5. And then standard 6, teachers contribute the academic success of their students. This is a two-way street. Even though you are a teacher, they are your students. Without them, you don't teach. Without you, they don't learn. So it's gonna do, I'm trying to make that symbol like the earth where the arrows just go like this, because that's what it is. So with contributing the academic success of their students, it's just what teachers do is so important, but how they connect to what you're doing successfully is so important. Knowing that and going back to 5, like knowing how you can be better to make them succeed. It's just standards 1 through 6, they all correlate. They all go together one way or another. And every single one of them, for a teacher to be successful, would need to be utilized in the classroom. Maybe some more than others, but definitely all of them, consecutively, because without these standards, teachers can't get better and they can't grow. And I know that the goal of this initially is for student growth, but without teacher growth, there is no student growth. And because teachers are constantly getting new knowledge, like my school just started Wit and Wisdom, because they're constantly starting something new. And I know there was that talk about standards-based grading. So there's always going to be something new. And I just feel that it's super important that not only or should we be focusing not solely, but most importantly on student success, but also teacher growth, because, and I know teachers do a lot of meetings and stuff like that, but teacher growth needs to be just as important, because student success relies on our success as a teacher. For them to be better, we have to be better. So in my classroom, for this one, I will definitely make sure that I am always staying ahead of my own game. If I fall a step behind, my students fall 10 steps behind. And if I keep that mindset, I can stay ahead and understand that my success is as important as their academic success, because if I don't grow, they can't grow. So I am really glad that I got a chance to talk about these standards. After I started field experience, because I work in elementary school already, and again, that's where I get to do my field experience, but they are making sure it's with teachers I've never been with. But talking about this after sitting in and observing, it's really different than if I hadn't done that yet and I was just going in and maybe subbing a class, or I've been being the long-term music teacher. It's different to observe and then come and read these standards and actually see the dynamics of teacher, student, teacher, and then everything in between, like students getting pulled for IEP